Well, hello, and welcome to ZBrush live stream. This is Ara, and we'll go ahead and get started. Just like every other time, though, if you guys could confirm in the chat that you can hear me on all three of the services, on YouTube and on Twitch, and also on Facebook, we can go ahead and get started. In the meantime, hey, Strawberry King, good to have you back. And let's see. If you can hear me okay, Strawberry King, just holler. Okay, good. So we're good on YouTube. How are we doing on Facebook and Twitch? Right, can see and hear you fine. Okay, good. And let's see. We have quite a few people on, so I'm sure there are people on Twitch and there are some people on Facebook, so let's wait a couple of minutes. While we're waiting, I want to make sure that I let everybody know that if you're watching this live, that's great. You can ask questions live. I'll try to answer them to the best of my knowledge. And also, if you like this video, like, subscribe, you know, all the good stuff. And leave a comment also if you are not watching this live and you have a question about anything I'm doing or anything ZBrush. You can leave it in the comments and hopefully somebody will get back to you sooner rather than later. And so just waiting for somebody on Twitch to chime in, and then we can get going. I think if we're good on YouTube and Twitch, I think Facebook is has a little bit of a delay, so we'll kind of catch up with them in a bit. All right, so we're going to continue working on this model today. refining some of the rough shapes here and getting it to be more refined. And also maybe we'll work on some of these pieces that we have not worked on as much. Last time we worked on the helmet and we created a visor and we also hollowed out the inside of the helmet like so. So we did that last time, and today we'll kind of continue to work on some of these other pieces, maybe introduce some kitbash parts and start getting this character into a condition where next week, or I'm sorry, not next week, but the week after next, when I have my next stream, we'll go ahead and work into posing it. Okay, so I still haven't heard from anybody on Twitch. Still waiting. Hopefully somebody will get back to me. In the meantime, I'll do a quick kind of summary as well while we're waiting. If you want to watch the previous ones of this, if this is the first time you're tuning in, if you want to watch the previous ones of these, you can always go to ZBrush Live. So pixologic.com/ZBrush Live. I don't know if you can see. Oh, wait a minute. Of course, I'm not showing my screen here. It would make a difference. So good. So here you can see on ZBrush Live, you can go to the calendar and see all the different presenters, and you can also see when I'm presenting next, which I think there I am here somewhere. Okay, so you can see there's a lot of streamers showing some really cool stuff. And I'm on again on December 17th, right before the holidays. And I think I'm on again one more time. We're doing another group stream. Let's see. Yep, I'm doing another one Tuesday, December 21st from 6 to 8 p.m. So I'll be working on something different. I don't know if you guys had the chance to see it, but we also did one of these maybe a week ago, a couple of weeks ago, right here, where there was a bunch of us kind of working on stuff with Paul kind of being a moderator. So it was really a fun experience, and hopefully you can join us on the next one, which is December 21st at 6 p.m. Right, and I'll be on again December 17th, I think it was. Yeah, December 17th to go into the posing of this character. All right, so anything else? All right. Okay, so let's see. Still haven't heard from Twitch. Anybody on Twitch? If you can hear me okay, just chime into the chat letting me know that you can hear me and see my screen fine. A couple other things. My website is Kermaco.com. And currently migrating it over to ArtStation. So my blog, for example, has already been migrated. So if you click on my blog, there's a link to link you to the ArtStation page, which is over here. And my ArtStation needs to be updated, so I'm working on that. But my blog, I transferred everything over from my previous blog to here. You can see some of my work, some of my work in progress, and more so than that, you can see. I have a lot of reference photos here. I went to, I went on whale watching, so I got pictures of that. San Diego Zoo. So whenever I go to museums or go on vacation, I take a lot of pictures, do some macro photography. So all that is here, and you can look at these images and I think download them so you can use them for your projects. So this was one of those daddy long leg spiders that I took some pictures of. Anyway, kind of digressing here, but let's see. Okay, so we're good on Twitch as well. We can go ahead and get started. Okay, so here we have our model. Let's see. Where do I want to start? I think I want to start a little bit on, let me go actual here and zoom this out. Okay, yeah, good. Trying to see if I can get a better render resolution. I think this is as good as it's going to get on this resolution that I have over here. Maybe let me try something here. Okay, so let's just go to document. No. Let's see if this is any better. Yeah, that is better. All right, so I'm glad I did that. Just going to change the background color to something lighter so there's a little bit more contrast, and we can go ahead and get started. I guess it's not that much better. All right, we're just going to go ahead and continue. All right, so let's go to the suit over here, and let's see if there's an area we can work on. I think I worked on some of the areas yesterday. Last time I didn't work on this area, so let's go ahead and do this. Right now it's looking very symmetrical, and at some point I'm going to break symmetry, but for now it's good. And probably when I pose the model, that's when the symmetry is going to be broken, so I can focus more on specific details back then. All right. So hopefully everybody had a good couple of weeks. Oh, let me make this thing smaller too. It's huge. So I'm probably going to get this question at some point, but what I'm using here is the Wacom radial menu, and it's just a way for me to quickly load up different brushes, and I don't know why. Here we go. It took a little bit of a while there, but I can just go ahead and make this a tad smaller so it's not taking over the screen. Yeah, that's more like it. Okay. All right, so this is just kind of some of the brushes that I use all the time. So I've got a menu here that's pretty fast, but this is even faster. So here I want to go to, let's say, Damien Standard. I can just go to it quickly. This way. All right, so I've got a little bit of kind of surface noise here. I'm trying to just refine the shapes a little bit to get something a little bit more, because it's basically, you know, it's kind of like looking at a blurry image and then bringing it into focus. I think somebody else mentioned something like it's like a fractal, where you basically are honing in on it. So that was a kind of a good description too. I'm gonna go ahead and change my material here to basic material for now, just so I can, or maybe basic material 2. So not metallic. Here we go. So I can kind of see things a little bit better. And also maybe get rid of the poly paint. Here we go, and maybe move to a lighter color. So that way I can kind of see the shapes a little bit better. And again, I don't really, I'm kind of spending some time over here, but a lot of the stuff's going to be occluded or not seen, so I don't really need to focus that much on areas that are not going to be seen well. So, but I don't want any kind of crossover things, because things like that cause issues with, I don't know, maybe when I export it, it will have some issues. All right, so let's go back up in resolution. I just don't want shapes like here, for example. You can kind of see that this is kind of crossing over on itself, and I can probably fix it in the upper subdivision levels, but it's easier to fix when I go down. Yep. All right, there's that. So even though I kind of used my method to generate this pretty quickly, as you can see here, refining it does take a little bit of time. I mean, again, depending on where you're going to look at it from. If I'm looking at it from this distance, it looks a lot better than if I zoom in, for example. I can see some kind of issues that I need to fix. As long as I fix the technical issues, I think the rest of it will be okay. Things that really bug me are like this area over here. You can see there's like a little bit of a kind of a wobble. I mean, cloth does have a little bit of this, but not as much. So I'm just going to polish it down. I can use the smooth brush with this as well. But here we go. And I kind of want to leave a little bit of it there because it adds to the realism. But on the other hand, I don't want it to be as kind of, you know, as obvious or as kind of as commanding. Slip slide on the issues. Okay. Guess, yeah. Right, so here I'm seeing that it is intersecting the body underneath, so I'm just going to pull this out a bit. I'm assuming it was the same on the other side. Yeah, so you can kind of see here this kind of chatter. So this doesn't really work for me, so I'm just going to, you know, go get rid of it. And again, a lot of these things are easier to get rid of at the lower subdivision levels. So I just go down until I see it, and then just refine it, then go up, refine it. So this is why I like multi-resolution sculpting or subdivision sculpting, because you can go up and down in subdivision levels and fix issues like this at the lower subdivision levels. And these are all basically from the alphas that I use, or the textures that I used. By the way, I don't know if you guys noticed, but Pixologic did put my video up. So if you go to the YouTube channel, my top tips from the ZBrush Summit, where I go through this process in a short video. If you guys want to know how that's done, and you don't want to watch the streams or find the point on the streams where you want to watch it, it's finally up there, so you guys can see it. So what are you all doing for the holidays? Anybody doing anything fun? Enjoying the Omicron variant? Oh. I think COVID is like a James Bond villain. Every time you think it's gone, it's back in another form. All right. I don't think I focused on that area, this area at all, so it's a good time to do it. And at some point, I'm going to. So it looks like here there's some folds that don't look natural. Like this doesn't really look natural here, so I'm just going to obliterate it. But I do want to get some folds there, so I'll show you guys how I can get them back, but something with more kind of cloth realism. I kind of like this little line that's going this way, so I'm going to accentuate that. And to do that, I'm going to use, let me jump up in subdivision levels here. I guess I'm almost up there. I am going to use a brush that I have here. So let me see here. I think I've got cloth in one of these. These are MM brushes. Let's just go to the root of the brush, curves, groom, cloth. Where are you? Miscellaneous image. Oh, these are the ones that come with ZBrush. Sorry, I need to go do my brushes over here, and I do have a folder with a bunch of cloth stuff. I'm sure there's some XMD ones, but let me see if I have clothing. It's the first one. All right, and let's go to, I think, this one right here, maybe. Let's see if this one has anything good. Yeah, it does. So let's say we want to use something like, And these brushes, I mean, I just basically get them on ArtStation. Some are available for free online, and some are ones that I've made. So there's a bunch of them. And I'm trying to get into the XMD app so I can organize my brushes better. Maybe this one, or let's try this one. Okay. So here I'm just going to go ahead and use this brush, maybe with a bigger size. To accentuate that line that was there. Here we go. And that looks okay. I don't like it curving into here, so I'm just going to do it over, but have it go in a different direction. Also, I'm going to maybe add a little bit to the intensity. Let's go to about 14. Just because I know I'm going to smooth it at some point, and when I do, let's see if that looks any better. Looks okay. Let me try one more time. Third time's the charm. See if I bring it down this way, if it's any better. Yep, I think that works a little bit better, but I kind of went a bit too far this way. So last but not least, in this case, fourth time is the charm. Here we go. There, that's working, right? And then maybe accentuate it a little bit over here. Like that, and then fix up a little bit more of these folds in the back here. Now there's some stuff going on here that I don't really like, so I'm just going to go ahead and drop the subdivision levels back to 4 and straighten this out a bit. And I can also accentuate some of these with the brushes too, which I will do just to kind of add folds. But I just here, it's going into the boot, so I just want to kind of have it do its thing this way. And yeah. All right, so that's looking a little bit better over here. And you kind of have to figure out that like some of this is going to actually be touching the body and some of it's going to be hanging down. So here it's probably touching the body, so I probably want it to be kind of straighter, and then as it falls down it develops some folds. And then once it goes in, it definitely kind of develops some folds too. All right, so that's looking okay. I think I'm getting pretty close to being done with this area just by kind of the cleanup aspect of it. Let's go back up in subdivision levels to see if I've got any of that kind of chatter. Still, no. It's looking much better. A little bit of it over here, like so. You guys are really quiet today. What's going on? Usually it's like 100 questions. Questions that I get all the time. I'll start listing them out. One is, how long does it take you to get good in ZBrush? That's one I get all the time. Another one that I get is ZBrush better or is Blender better? Every time I get these questions, so I'll just ask them myself. So there's a new version of Blender, I think, today that just came out, 3.0. I don't know if it came out today. Well, what happened here? When did I do that? Let's see. You guys could see this little area over here. I think did I just do this, or I'm gonna go back a few steps to see. Oh, I guess it's just there. All right, I'll fix it instead of going back in time. Yeah, it did. I downloaded it. I haven't installed it yet. I probably will over the weekend take a look at it. I think it's getting to the point where people are like, oh, it's great, but I wish it had this, that, and the other. So that's a good sign. What I really like is how fast this thing is developing. But the thing about Blender that's kind of interesting that people don't notice is that, yes, it's free, but if you want to do some things, you have to buy plugins. So, I mean, so far I think I've spent a good few $100s on plugins just to do some of the things I need to do, and I still can't do everything I need to do. But on the flip side, you know, Maya's like a lot of money, and you still have to get plugins for it too. So I'm not really knocking the fact that you need plugins, and I'm glad that, you know, there are people that are making money on the plugins. So this area over here, it looks like it's kind of a hard surface, kind of not hard surface, but it's more like a what do you call it? A kind of a harder kind of area, like has more padding or something like that. Maybe it's where, you know, she sits down on the space thing that she's in, the spacecraft. Right. A lot of weird chatter over here. Let me go down in subdivision levels, fix that up. I need folds, but I don't really need them to be that harsh. All right, so let's see. I like ZBrush. Yeah, me too. Did this. I think I prefer modeling in ZBrush more than anything else. It gives me a lot more freedom. I mean, for production, you know, if like, you know, I'm working on some production model or whatever that needs to be retopoed or whatever. Sometimes I have to use Maya just because the studio uses it. I wonder if the studios will ever kind of, you know, adopt Blender. I mean, it makes sense for them. I'm sure they'll save a lot of money, but a lot of them have probably invested a lot of money in pipelines that use Maya. So I don't think that's going to happen any day soon. But, you know, if Autodesk keeps raising prices, and I mean, I used to subscribe to Maya. I used to pay the $400 or $500 it was, and then eventually it became $700 a year. And then after that, now I think it's subscription only, and if you do the calculations, it comes to about double of what 700 was. So they basically went to a subscription only model and doubled their price. And I think they're thinking people aren't going to notice. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe studios that, you know, I think studios are budget conscious too, so I don't know. I think people are noticing. And of course, ZBrush continues to offer amazing new features and not charge for an upgrade, which I'm super thankful for. By the way, if you guys are on 2022, which you should be, I don't know why you wouldn't be, there was a slight update to 2022.0.1, which is over here. Let me show it real quick. Right here. Everybody should upgrade to that. They fixed a couple of small bugs, added some things too. But yeah. All right, so I am going to Kermaco. Yes, I'm not going to rig this. Or actually, I am going to rig it. Yes, I am going to use Mixamo. And next week I'm going to do that, or next stream I'm going to do that. I'm going to use Mixamo to basically find some good poses for this guy, for this lady, and then I'm going to export out of that into FBX. And unfortunately, currently ZBrush does not allow me to bring that FBX animation in. Because ZBrush doesn't have the animation aspects of FBX. I don't know if it will at some point or not, but it currently does not. So I have to either load it into Blender, which I could do. I could load it into Blender or load it into Maya. And I mean, the reason why I'm doing that is just to basically find a pose and export it out as an OBJ. That's basically it. And then just bring it back into ZBrush. And then once I have the pose in ZBrush, I'll just go ahead and start you know, working on the pose model. But right now I'm just basically working on T-pose. Like, so if this thing was going to be in a game, it would have to be in this A pose or T-pose, and then it would get rigged, and then animators would animate it. So I just need to be working on this version of the model for now, and I'm working in symmetry. If there are asymmetrical parts, I will work on symmetry as long as I can, until I break that symmetry. So this is looking good. And let's see, like items of character. I use ZBrush for a lot of things. I mean, I use ZBrush for, you know, so my kind of workflow nowadays has become, I start in ZBrush, and whenever I need something that isn't there, I go out. But I'm needing to do that less and less and less as they are going up in versions. So like Retopology, for example, sometimes, even though Maya has some good retopology tools, once they added this in ZModeler, once they added extrude edge, I'm finding that I can do a lot of the things in here that I needed to go outside of ZBrush for. So yeah, I stay in ZBrush for as long as I can. And my dream is never to leave it one day. Just do everything in here. Just because, you know, however they do these things, however Pixologic kind of puts these features in, they do it in a very intelligent way. All right. Do you know how to draw too? I have to know how to draw. There's no way you can do these things without knowing how to draw. I mean, basically, you know, the pen control that I have here is because I learned how to draw. I used to draw a lot when I was a kid, to the detriment of many of my teachers who used to come over, admire what I'm drawing, but reprimand me for not paying attention to what they were doing. But yeah, I do draw, definitely. And I'm finding myself drawing and using paper and ink less and less, just because, you know, if I'm going to do something and I don't have a computer around, I usually do it on my iPad with Procreate, which is such a good program also. Every once in a while, you know, I get nostalgic and whip out ink and paper. I like using fountain pens for drawing. But yeah, I think you definitely should be at least decent at drawing to be a good digital artist. I don't know anybody who is really good at as a digital artist who doesn't draw. I take that back. There was an artist that I knew a while back that basically prided himself for not knowing how to draw or not drawing. I mean, I'm sure he would draw fine, but he prided himself for not drawing and being good on ZBrush. All right, let's see. Wow, a bunch of different. Are you going to the Retopology? Yeah, there's a lot of Murak. There's a lot of I'm sure. I hope I'm saying that right. There's always tutorials on how to retopologize in ZBrush, and there's a lot of ways to retopologize in ZBrush. There's the Z-sphere method, which is pretty neat, and then there is the one that I talked about earlier, which is using ZModeler and using extrude edges, and then yeah. So, and then there's also retopologize by curves. There are. I have to kind of preface it with, and you guys know how much I love ZBrush. I have to preface it with, like, if I have a heavy-duty retopology task, I'm usually doing it outside of ZBrush. But a lot of times I do it in ZBrush. And also there's ZRemesher, which, you know, people don't realize is a way to retopologize. So am I going to retopologize this? Probably not, because I started with a topologized model. So here, if I go down in subdivision levels, and let me go all the way down here to 1, and let me see here. Let me just solo this out. So as you can see here, I'm already starting with decent topology on here at the lower subdivision level, so I don't really need to retopologize this just because I started with a model that had good topology. Now, there are some areas here that I kind of shrunk down just because I wanted to fit this into the boot, but I don't think I'm going to retopologize this. I think I've got decent topology to go off of already. You know, the license price, I mean, that's kind of interesting that you say that, because, well, a couple of things. One is, if you're smart about it, you can, I mean, first of all, you have to really assess whether you need full ZBrush or if you can get away with using ZBrush Core. ZBrush Core is pretty powerful on its own, and there's ZBrush Core Mini as well, which is actually free. So if you haven't spent the money on it yet, I would recommend you definitely download and look at ZBrush Core Mini, and because it's free and it kind of gives you a good idea of what you can do. And then if you like it, you can go to ZBrush Core, and if you notice that you need certain things that's in the full of ZBrush, you can go to that. And you don't have to buy these over again. Like if you have ZBrush Core, you can upgrade to ZBrush. There's an upgrade path. Now another thing I should mention, and it's kind of it's kind of after the fact, but the best time to buy ZBrush is when they have the ZBrush Summit, and unfortunately they just had it. During the ZBrush Summit is the only time they discount it, so you can get 20% off, so you're not paying the $900 for it. And also, here's the other thing. When I bought ZBrush like years ago, it wasn't that expensive. So the sooner you get into it, the more you kind of lock in a lower price. Because I think the way that they do things is they basically will not charge for upgrades, but the price does go up every once in a while. So, and honestly, just thinking about what I get with this software, I think it's one of the best investments I've ever made. I think I say that in every stream, and they don't pay me to say that. It's just basically, it's how I feel. So, and I think if you talk to other artists too, a lot of artists feel the same way. All right, so I'm going to introduce some folds here. I could use the dynamic system in ZBrush, but I can introduce some folds. And I mean, consider some of the other software and how much it is. Like, how much is Maya? How much is, like, look at something like, Substance Painter. They went to a subscription model as well. Like, how much is that? And, it might be cheap to subscribe for a month or whatever, but overall, you're paying a lot of money over the time that you own the software. So, I mean, it's all relative, I guess. But I think from a investments perspective, if this is allowing you to do the kinds of things that you want to do, you'll notice that it is a very small price to pay. All right, so there's a bunch of stuff here. Yeah, learning drawing is important, definitely, and because it teaches you a lot of things that you need to know. Like if you don't do any art, like if you haven't done any art at all in any shape or form, and you just jump into ZBrush, I think you're going to struggle, just because there's a lot of fundamentals that you need to know. And you either get that through schooling or through a rigorous discipline over the years. So, people ask me, how long did it take you to learn ZBrush? I'm like, well, ZBrush, it took me this long, but everything else that I'm doing took me a lot longer. So it is definitely an investment in time. Okay. Okay, so with all due respect to your teacher, I think that a lot of teachers have no idea of what ZBrush can do. I think a lot of teachers, including ones that I teach with at the schools that I teach at, a lot of them basically just kind of know ZBrush from a while back. Like none of them have any idea of what ZBrush can do now. Like if you ask them what ZModeler is, and if they understand what ZModeler is, they will have no idea. And there's pretty big names in the industry that don't know, right? Just because, a lot of times they are used to doing something a certain way, and they just basically, they are people that are pretty established in what they're doing. So people respect what they say. But one of the biggest fears that I have is if I get to that kind of position, is that I'm not flexible and I'm not keeping up with the times, and I'm basically becoming establishment, becoming somebody who is, professing that I know what's going on and instructing people on what I think is the right way, where things could be a little bit different. So I think that, again, Maya is good for certain things, definitely. Like if I was going to retopologize a car from CAD, for a project, I probably would do some of it in ZBrush, but I would have to do a lot of work in Maya. But if I was working on a mech, like the mechs that I do, and here I'll show you some of them. You know, I mean, go to your teacher and just say that you know this guy called Ara who does a stream, and he does mechs, and he does them all in ZBrush. So you look at this thing right here, even this thing right here, it's completely done in ZBrush. Here we go, 100% ZBrush model right here, right? No Maya at all. So this is 100% ZBrush. 100% ZBrush, right? So I don't know. And I don't just do mechs, I do vehicles as well. Here's a car, 100% ZBrush. And I'm currently working on a motorcycle, which I will show soon. And that's done in ZBrush as well. So here we go. Here's another hard surface model done in ZBrush, right? So yeah, I think a lot of people don't really understand what ZBrush can do nowadays. All right. What did he make the original base model in? The base model I just bought, I don't know what he made it in. The person that the person that sells the model could have made it in anything. But I should also mention, and here I think I can load it. Let me go here to this. Let me delete this model, I don't need it, and load into here. There's some really good ones that come with ZBrush. So there is, like, if you want to get a model here, there's one, there's two that come in project. There's a female and a male model that you can load. But if you want to load one as a tool, there's this one, Nixie's male average ZTL. There it is, and I think he made some changes to it. So let me go off of solo here. He gave it a nice hair here. But yeah, I think he polygrouped this thing too. So this is a pretty good model that you can use. And you know, and he made this in ZBrush. So you know, you can make these in ZBrush. I think it'll take a little bit more time. You don't have some of the level of control as you do with, let's say, Maya for doing certain modeling tasks. But to generate a human like this, I think you can do it in ZBrush. If that's the only software you had, you can do it that way. This guy looks really top heavy. But he does have layers. I should mention that too. He has a couple of layers. One of them is, I think, his arms. So you can kind of make his arms kind of go down and up. And he also has one for his mouth. So here. I hope you like my hair. There you go. See? You can animate too. All right. So yeah, I definitely think that you know, you can generate your base mesh in here. And you can always modify it or buy something. I mean, for me, I used to make my models, and I do have a few, but eventually I just basically went out and bought one for, I think, you know, around $10 or so on ArtStation. I think I talk about it in one of my earlier streams in this series, so you guys can go and take a look. All right, so I want to use some of those cloth brushes. Where were they? I moved off of them, so I need to go back. Here we go, brushes, clothing, and I think this one, or was it this one? I think it was this one. All right, so let's pick this one again. I should still have it here, right? Yep, I do. All right, let's see. There's a bunch more questions. Yeah, right. CAD software is like, you know, crazy amount of money for CAD software. I don't know. Should I say Academy? It depends on you. Different people learn different ways. So some people learn more in a school setting, and some people learn more in a academy setting, and some people just learn on their own. I don't know if you guys know who Chris Costa is, but he does like really realistic looking humans. Like really realistic looking humans. You know, I mean, he does like people that have been dead for a while, and he does them and does renders that make it look like it's a picture. And I think he learned on his own in Brazil just by finding videos on the web. And there's a lot of free stuff as well, but I think getting a good education in a school setting definitely speeds things up a bit. And also, it's good for connections. But if you're driven and motivated, I think you can do anything. All right, this one I need to go the other way. All right. I know there's more questions. Oh yeah, there's a trial version of ZBrush too. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, you can get a 30-day trial. Yeah, there is a learning curve to ZBrush. That is true. But you know, if you stay with it, I think there's a learning curve to anything really serious that you want to do. But if you want to, you know, I mean, if it's something you want to do, you'll have to put up with it. Okay, to Rizwan animation, what software am I using? I'm using ZBrush. Okay, I use a lot of ZBrush for Arcane. Yeah, I would say so. There's a really cool thing in ZBrush called clay polish that a lot of these stylistic games use, which basically, here, I'll kind of show you guys how that works. So I'm just going to duplicate this thing right here and solo it out, right? So I just basically created a duplicate of what I had. And if I go to clay polish here, under geometry, before I do that, let me drop a quick save, just so we have a saved copy. It's a good time to take a tea break. You know, another thing I should also mention is that with ZBrush, you don't really need a beefed up graphics card. I mean, they just introduced the Bevel Pro, which uses the graphics card. I think there's a couple of other plugins that use it, but for the most part, ZBrush doesn't use the graphics card, so you can get away with getting, you know, a decent graphics card, not like the top one, and you'd be okay with it. So here, this button here, clay polish, you just kind of continue to just hit it, and then you start getting things that start looking more and more stylistic, like you know, you can see here it's already happening, right? You see that it's kind of getting this kind of stylized look, and you get that pretty much for free just by clicking on the clay polish button. And I'm not I don't really do a lot of stylistic stuff, and I don't do a lot of stylized models, but it's the one I was working on. I hope it is. I hope I didn't delete the one. Here we go. Yeah, no, this one's the one I was working on. I don't know what this is. All right, well, we'll just kind of not deal with it right now. But there's a lot of artists that do stylized stuff on the streams here, and you can go in and take a look at some of what they do. If you like that kind of look like Arcane, is it Arcane? I forget the name. I haven't watched it yet. Yeah, Arcane, that's right. Okay, just on stream. Okay, thanks, Sean. I appreciate that. Oh wow, Lightwave, man. I had Lightwave a while back. It's a good piece of software. I think it evolved into Modo. I got into Modo at the time, and I think Modo has a lot of cool stuff in it. But I think the reason why I stopped using it is because, like, you know, I was tired of paying $300-400. I don't know how much it is now, but it was like getting to be $300-400 every year, and honestly, for a few years, I think the thing that really dissuades me from kind of upgrading software like that is if they don't have any features that I need. But Moto is pretty good. It's got some good modeling things in it. And it is from the people that made Lightwave. So, and I'm surprised that Lightwave is still around. I mean, you know, not that it's a bad piece of software and it shouldn't be, but there's so many, you know, there's so many software, there's so many newer things out there. Like I'm surprised Lightwave is around and Softimage isn't. I think that was really detrimental. I used to use Softimage before, and when Autodesk killed it, it was really kind of like a no. Why? I mean, from their perspective, I think it makes sense because, you know, I mean, they're going to be supporting 3 different pieces of software that pretty much do the same thing. They're not going to get rid of Max because that's kind of their homegrown thing. Well, kind of not. They bought it from Kinetics, but I think more, you know, that was the first one they had before they bought Maya. So I remember the day they did that. Okay, all right, choose polygroup colors, or is it just random with... well, the good question. So it's usually random. So here you can see that this has got a bunch of polygroups on it. And let me drop this in resolution so you can see it better. So you can see this has a bunch of polygroups on it. And what material am I? Okay, let me just go to basic material, or let me go to skin shade 4. We can see it better. So you see these polygroup colors. So you can't assign a specific polygroup color, but one of the things they've added, which was kind of nice, is this thing called regroup visible. And what that'll do is just kind of cycle through some colors. So if you didn't like those previous colors, you can kind of continue hitting regroup visible until you get something that looks good. But yeah, regroup visible is kind of a welcome feature. I really like it. Let's see. And the other thing that's nice about it is you can always undo. So I'm going to undo it to what I had before because I kind of liked what I started with. There we go. All right, Chris is great. Yep, he is. Thank you for. Okay, no, you said what can we follow you? Okay, so Murak, my work. Yes. So the best place to, you know, I kind of have a bunch of different things. Best thing to do is go to Kermaco.com, right? Kermaco.com, and that's going to be my website too. When I go to ArtStation, it's still going to be Kermaco.com. So that's where you have my portfolio, right? So you can see my portfolio here. A lot of the stuff is older. If you want to see my newer stuff, you can go to my Instagram. And I'm trying to get to 2,000 followers. I'm almost there. So this is kind of my newer stuff. So this was kind of done with the same technique of using the image projection. Here's another one that I did for Halloween. And there's a few that I haven't posted yet that I'm going to post soon. Here's another one. This one's mostly using some of the paint features, using the same technique. I mean, I did do some sculpting, but mostly it's paint. So Instagram has most of my more recent stuff. Like whenever I do something interesting and I want to post about it, I post it on Instagram. But a lot of this is going to find its way to my website eventually as I talk about it. But also, you can always catch my streams here. I'm going to start posting more to ZBrush Central. And I've done some tutorials for the Gnomon Workshop. So if you go to Gnomon Workshop here and go to Browse and by Instructor and go to, I'll go to here I am. So I've done 2 tutorials on here. One of them is a Mech tutorial. And this is a pretty long tutorial. I think it's about 9 hours, and it goes all the way from researching the specifications and goes into working in VR to do sketches, and then bringing it into ZBrush and refining it and modeling it in ZBrush, and then UVing it, and then texturing it and painting it in Substance Painter, and then rendering it in Keyshot, compositing it in Photoshop. So this is a kind of a one that I've done. I've also done one on photogrammetry on here. So if you guys are interested in photogrammetry, I did this a while back about how you can take a scan of somebody and then make her into a game kind of model. Here you can see that I've replaced the Nerf gun she's holding with something I've modeled, and so it kind of goes through this process. For now, these are the two places you can find me, but again, just remember Kermaco, Kermaco.com. And here are all my other social media stuff. So my Facebook, I think I've got a little bit of room left there to add more people. There's my Instagram. I'm not really that active on Behance. I should kind of prop it up. I do have a YouTube channel, but again, it's kind of old. I am on Twitter. I rarely tweet. I am on Vimeo. I think I have one video there. I'm on LinkedIn, which, you know, is kind of like something I use very rarely. And I do have a Pinterest, but I don't really use it that much. So mostly my Instagram and Facebook is where I am kind of, I'm residing more and more these days. And again, of course, there's my website. I do have an art station in Gumroad too, and they're over here. So hopefully that answers that. Okay, so Murak, hopefully that answers your question. Have I tried Forge or Nomad? I've tried both. I have them both on my iPad. They're good. I mean, they're definitely not as feature-rich as ZBrush is, but if I'm in a waiting room somewhere, or if I am not on a computer and I definitely want to be working on doing a sculpt, I can do it. I mean, they're definitely not as full-featured as ZBrush is. And the brush system that they have is decent. It's okay, but again, it's just I don't think I wouldn't compare. You know, it's not an apples to apples comparison. That's that. Yeah, Arcane is basically they've just done it with CGI. I'm sure there will be plenty of videos of how it's done. If you kind of follow along, I'm sure they'll talk about how they did it and whatnot. But I'm assuming they basically just used regular CG workflows to do it. Kind of the same way like Clone Wars or something like that has been done. It looks okay. I'm kind of not into Riot stuff. I don't know why. I know a lot. It's very popular, and I know it's big with the esports people, but I've never really kind of gotten into it as much. So, and I haven't watched Arcane yet. I started, watching it just a little bit, just because to see what everybody was talking about. But it's definitely in my watch list. Probably over the holidays I'll get some time to spend on it. All right, let's see. Rhino and parametric modeling. Rhino is good for, if you like to work in kind of that way. I think it's good for that. I think I've used it a little bit. Didn't really, I think NURBS are one of those things where I kind of boycotted learning them in Maya. And I think, I think that there are some people that like to work with NURBS. I think, there's definitely advantages to it. But for NURBS, I use another piece of software called Moai 3D. And I really would prefer to use that. However, coming to parametric modeling, I think that there's a thing called Grasshopper that works with Rhino, and I've seen some really interesting work that people have done with that. So, I think there's definitely a place for it. I think that, a good idea is to try all these software packages, and all of them have trial versions, and look at the results also that people get. And then if you like those results and that's kind of what you want to do, then you can use that. Let's see, what else? So I can export the texture to keyshot render. I'm kind of new, and okay. So this person's asking how I can unwrap a model to export it into keyshot. The good news about keyshot is it'll take like really dense polygons. Like you can throw some heavy-duty models at it. Like I can just, I've had a 315 million poly spaceship, Mech and spaceship that I did. that I threw at Keyshot, and it just basically took it no problem. So the thing to do is there's a couple of things to consider. One is if you're just going to export something to Keyshot, then I would definitely say use the Keyshot bridge. It's like the best thing ever, and it's so good. You just basically press one, you press one button. I have it here on my UI. You just go to render, external renderer, you check this box, and then when you click on BPR, it basically shoots your model over to Keyshot, and then you can work on it in there. So so that's how I would do it. But if you wanted to do it a different way, like you wanted to have a lighter version of the model and then bake out some displacement or normal maps, you can do that as well. So that's another reason why I do multi-resolution modeling. So here, you can see that this thing here, this model, this suit here, is pretty extensive. So if you look at it right now, it's at looking at about 4 million polys, right? Which still isn't that much. I could probably subdivide this one more time if I wanted to. But of course, an animation software isn't going to take that. So that's why I have the lower subdivision cage. So I just go down in subdivision levels. So here, let me just kind of solo this out. And let me turn off the poly groups here. So if I solo this out and I look at this, right now, this is kind of still a lot of polygons. So I can go down to level 2. So maybe a game engine or something could take this level of polygons. So then what I would do is I would bake a normal map, and I can do it in here too. But there are other baking software that's kind of a little bit better. So that's another whole other discussion of what's better for baking normal maps and baking displacement maps. But you can generate a displacement map, and the way to unwrap is you can unwrap it here in ZBrush. So there is a plugin. Here in the Z plugins and UV Master. I use UV Master a lot. It's a kind of quick and easy way to unwrap a model. So you can use that. Or, of course, you can take it out and unwrap it in other software. All right, so we got something in Korean here. Let me see if I can use Google Translate. I wish this chat had a translate feature. But let me use Google Translate here to see what you're saying. Da, 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 da. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Google Translate. I don't know why it keeps wanting me to. What the hell? Okay. Google Translate. Okay. In English, please. Oh, he needs subtitles. Okay, well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if when this is on YouTube, maybe it'll add subtitles. I don't know. Okay. Want to become famous, buy followers. Okay, wow, great. No, I do want to become famous, but I don't want to do it by buying followers. Thank you very much. What's the most difficult when you create a character? I don't know. That's a good question. I think the most difficult thing for me is coming up with a compelling design is a little bit difficult. It's not difficult. It's a challenge. I don't want to call it a difficulty. It's more like a challenge. You have to really if you look at a lot of sci-fi characters in movies, they look really kind of boring nowadays. And coming up with an interesting design is really hard. And there's a lot of artists that are kind of patting themselves on the back for working on production things and coming up with designs, but there's very few designs that are really good. For example, I really like the designs that are in the Dune movie, the new Dune movie. There's some very, very good designs there, both in character design, costume design, as well as hard surface design. I think they've done some really great work there. But then there's a lot of other sci-fi movies where you just look at the alien and it just looks like the same thing. If I see one more creature that opens its mouth and yells and screams and does the kind of the growl, I'm just going to lose it. I mean, for all the creativity out there, I think Hollywood is very uncreative. It's very like, you know, they play it very safe. There's very few risks being taken. And what's funny is that whenever a risk is taken and it's successful, it is applauded. Like people like all kind of line up to pat the person on the back for taking that risk. But as far as funding risky projects, very few are funded. So we're getting a lot of the same thing over and over and over again. I was watching the series on Apple TV the other day called Invasion. I don't know if anybody here has seen it. And I was looking at the characters in that, the monsters. And first of all, I couldn't tell what the hell was going on with the monsters. But I got to applaud the fact that they're doing something a little bit different. A little bit different, not a lot different. But, you know, it's kind of interesting. I mean, if you look at the kind of the most celebrated creature of all time in movies, which is Giger's Alien, right? Giger's Alien is very different from a lot of things that came before it, right? I mean, there is some Japanese kind of image that people have looked at that looks a lot like Alien, the alien creature. That was from a while back, and maybe Giger used that as reference, maybe not, I don't know. But just from a creature perspective, you know, it definitely made a big difference. Another one is the Predator, right? Predator was really interesting looking. It was very new. But then, you know, after that, it's just like the same thing over and over and over again. Like some creature with like a face that opens up and then screams and yells and has a lot of teeth or a lot of eyes or whatever. There's very few artists that I mean, this is all my personal opinion, by the way. There's very few artists out there that really are pushing the envelope. And I'm sure there's a lot of artists that want to push the envelope, but they're held back by mediocre to, you know, want to play it safe art directors. So that's my 2 cents. All right, let's see, what else do you guys have? Yeah, I use Moai 3D. I love Moai 3D. It's pretty good. It's another piece of software that's not very expensive and also has a lot of really great capabilities. I think I upgraded to 4. I think it's finally out of beta. Where is it? I don't know for sure. Yeah, no, it is out of beta. That's right. I did upgrade. Again, it was kind of like a, you know, sure, take my money. It's well worth it. All right, what else? How do I texturize? I do a lot of it in ZBrush. The polypaint capability in ZBrush is pretty powerful. So I try to do as much of it in ZBrush as possible. You know, we talked about Chris Costa earlier, but you know, you'll find it interesting that the painting that Chris Costa does on his characters that basically look like the people. He did one of Giger, who's not been with us for a while now, you know, he painted it in ZBrush. So you know, the polypaint in ZBrush is pretty powerful. That's the other thing too. In ZBrush, there's like so many, like there's a polypaint app. You know what I mean? Like, you know, with Maya, there really isn't one. I mean, there is, but it's pretty weak. So you have to buy Mari, which is like another, you know, hefty price tag. I also do use Substance Painter, although I have not upgraded since they went to the subscription model. Just because I think it's kind of stupid for them to do that. That was like the dumbest move they could have done. I'm sorry, folks at Adobe now. But I think, I mean, I'm sure they did it for a good reason. I shouldn't knock their reasons for doing it. But, and I think that they also do offer it. If you want to buy it on Steam, you can buy it. I haven't looked at that option yet because I don't think there's anything new that they've introduced that is compelling enough. But eventually I think I will do that. I think I would rather do that than subscribe. I think the only software I subscribe to now is Photoshop. Okay. Yeah, the Stranger Thing, yeah, like that monster, with the hand kind of thing that opens up. It's like, come on already. District 9 had, oh yeah, District 9 monsters were great. I think that Neil Blomkamp is one of those, risk takers. And I don't know if he's had a new movie lately, but District 9 was really good. So was, why am I forgetting the name? The one with the kind of the planet or the ring outside Earth that kind of housed the privileged people. Elysium. Elysium was really good too. So yeah, I think Neil Blomkamp is definitely one of those directors out there that does good work. Yeah, the prawns were really good. Yeah, Elysium. That's right, Sean. Thanks for reminding me. Is Mudbox still in use? I don't. I don't know. I wrote a book on the thing, and I haven't used it since. I'm sure they're updating it with some weird things every year and re-releasing it. But I think they're wasting their time and money. I think their strategy is that they're still doing it for people that are intimidated by ZBrush's UI. But I think eventually they'll kill it. Yeah, I wrote a book on the thing, and I think they kind of killed it for a while. They didn't really do anything with it, so I was like, okay, well, this is over. But then they came back and they're like, no, we do want to do something with it. But yeah, I'm sure there are some people that still use it. I don't know. But the biggest reason they bring forth is that they're intimidated by the ZBrush user interface. But I think they're selling themselves short by not learning what ZBrush can do, because ZBrush can do so much more than Mudbox can. And the brush system in ZBrush is so much better. So much better. This coming from the person who wrote a book on Mudbox. Like, it was a struggle for me to model the stuff that was in the book. And I had to do it all in Mudbox, and it was just like, ugh. All right. Happy partner anniversary. Okay. Yeah, sure. Right. Yeah, I think you're right. I think a lot of companies, like, a lot of these kind of Fortune 500 type companies, they get to a certain point where they're not going to innovate. They're not. You know what I mean? They like Autodesk became Autodesk because of AutoCAD. Bottom line, that's kind of their meat and potatoes software, right? But when you get to a certain point and you're on the stock market, you have to show growth so people continue to buy your stock and invest in your stock. And if you can't innovate, if you don't have the people inside your company to do new things, then you just have to buy other things, right? And that's how you grow. So that's how these companies can kind of show growth. They're like, oh, well, we just purchased this innovative software company, and we're going to use them to, make our future versions of software, and and so, it's an investment that we're making. And so they do that, and that's what they tell the shareholders. And then they turn around and they take the software that made them all that money and kind of screw all the loyal users of the software by raising the price, or, not giving it the same kind of support. Like, if you look at Maya, for example, Maya had such an amazing ecosystem before Autodesk bought it. And now that they've bought it, it's just like basically, does not have the same kind of ecosystem it did before. And I think, anybody you talk to that is a Maya user always kind of pines for the days where it was owned by Alias. Oh, okay. Well, thanks. Yeah, I think, there are certain things in my book that kind of, you can apply to anything, really. But yeah, it was kind of one of those things where I wanted to write a book on something, and I thought, at the time that, my box had more promise, but I should have known better. All right, what else? All right, so again with the, I don't know what this partner anniversary thing is about. Maybe you can enlighten us. All right, so I'm still working on the suit here, and let me jump to another piece. I'm kind of tired of it, and let's see what I can do. I think this one's kind of good the way it is. I kind of wanted to work on this piece right here. Trying to establish some forms on this one. We're doing bad time, by the way. Oh, we're doing okay. So if you guys are interested in this, definitely tune in next time, because next time is when I'm going to be taking this into Mixamo and getting a pose out of it. So, I mean, today it's going to be a little bit more like what I've been doing and just refining the shape. I might be doing a little bit more of this off screen just because I've been doing it for a while, and I'm sure you guys are tired of watching me do the same thing over and over again. If you're not, let me know. I mean, I don't mind. I don't have a end time to this specific character. I think I'm gonna, do it. A hero character like this in a game or a movie usually takes about 2 weeks to a month to flush out. So I'm basically doing it 2 hours at a time, every other week. So, and I don't mind just working on it for, the aggregate time. It all depends on you guys, but I also kind of want to move it along so I can work on something else. For my next season, I think I'm going to do a vehicle. I think I'm going to do a motorcycle. Maybe with a rider. All right. Yeah, 2 weeks to a month in production for a hero character, not for a kind of NPC, but for a hero character, it takes about that long, and it's not one person working on it either. There's usually an art director giving feedback, like you look at something like Master Chief in Halo, there's a lot of people that work on that. It's not just one person. Did I watch Lost in Space? I did. I finished watching the new season. It was pretty good. I like the spacesuits in it. I like that show. I think it's really good. It's an interesting look they have for the robot too. I was kind of, excited about that. Go to different alpha here. Maybe this one. Yeah, it looks like they finished it though. I think this was the last season. I don't know if they're going to do another one. They wrapped it up pretty nice. I mean, they opened it up where Will's kind of going out into space and exploring. So we never know. They could have another season, maybe an offshoot or something like that. But things need to end, I think. It's enough of the same thing, All right. This ZBrush Live is a definitely an exclusive ZBrush channel, but I do use other software. Like next week, I'm going to use Mixamo and Maya just a little bit, but most of everything is in ZBrush because it is a Pixologic channel. I should preface that with they don't sculpt it for a month and then paint it for a month. The whole thing takes about a month. In most big studios, it takes about a month. I've known. I think I talked to a guy that did the original. what's that game called on the PlayStation with Drake? What was it? Jeez. How can I forget the name? It's pretty popular. And they're going to make a movie from it too. I'm sure somebody will pop it onto the chat. It's made by Naughty Dog. No, Death Stranding, no. Death Stranding used photogrammetry. So the way they got the likeness was using photogrammetry. Uncharted, that's right. Uncharted. That's what I love about these streams, is like there's always somebody who'll know the answer. Yeah, so Uncharted, the first guy, the hero guy in that, the guy I think took months and months to do that character. So first they got to, you know, kind of come up with the concept, and of course they did do that usually in 2D, and then somebody has to model it and sculpt it, and then paint it, and then revisions and whatnot. So it takes a long time. To do a hero model that's going to be kind of like the star of a game, it takes a while to generate that character. And sometimes it's one person working on it, like one kind of really good artist, and sometimes it's a team of people. But yeah, they paint it, they do all the stuff. Also, they make it game res as well. Retopo it, do all that work. But, you know, usually they have TDs, they have people helping them. The thing that you should do is when you play a game, look at the credits. And it's like, or watch a movie, like look at the credits afterwards. It's like, you know, hundreds of people. So it's usually a team effort. Here I'm just doing this by myself. There's nobody else helping me. And maybe a little bit you guys are, you know, kind of giving me some guidance here and there, but for the most part it's just one person. Okay. Yes, so Murak, I am here. I'm on this channel every other Friday night. So, and I'm talking about Friday night LA time. But the good thing to do is if you go over here to pixologic.com/ZBrush live, I should bring this down here. So this right here, if you go here, there is a calendar, and it tells you when I'm going to be on. So if you just go to the calendar up here, right? So you go to calendar, and so you can look at it in calendar view or agenda view, and then you can basically see when people are on. So I'm usually on, Friday off. Every once in a while, I kind of skip a Friday and do it another Friday. Sometimes I you know, I do 3 times a month, and usually it's 2 times a month. But I also do group ones too. Like I did a group one last time with a group of artists, a group of streamers, and I did a kind of a whatchamacallits, a Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come from A Christmas Carol, right? And I don't know what I'm doing next time. I'm probably just going to work on something I've been working on. It seems like that's what a lot of the artists are doing. So I'm just going to do that. So here I'm just basically creating some placeholders where I'm going to put in some kitbash parts, which I'll do very soon here, right? But I just want to make sure that like this, I'm going to take the helmet off, is going to be, you know, so I'm basically envisioning that I might have a render of this person without the helmet on. So I'm going to hide the helmet and the visor. I should probably put that in a folder. Or I could use some of these views, so I'm going to do that. So I'm going to create a view here, so I'm just going to bring that back up. This was a new feature that they introduced in ZBrush. I'll use that later. Introduced in ZBrush 2022, which is really nice. So here I've got this view. She's got the helmet on. But let's say I want to go to another view where there is just the helmet, and I want to go to another view here. And where is that star? Don't want that. And we don't want these guys either. So here I'm going to go to another view that basically does not have the helmet. So it doesn't have this piece. It doesn't have the visor. And does not have this thing right here. Which, if you could go to it. All right, so I just want this thing to kind of be a kind of the socket for where the helmet goes. So I do need to do a little bit of work on the inside part. So basically, like, you know, if there was a scene where she took her helmet off, this would show up. So I do need to do a little bit of work on the inside part. And then if I want to go to the other view where the helmet is on, I go to V1. If I just want to go to the helmet alone, then it's V2 and V3. So this was a new thing that they introduced in this version of ZBrush, and it is really cool. Every time they introduce a new version of ZBrush, I always go like, how did I live without this capability before? I think I'm going to go a little bit, yeah, I think let's just try to find a good form for this. All right. Hello, how's point totals in your, Dennis. So right now, and again, there's a lot of repeats here and there's a lot of parts that I'm not using. So, but basically it's, the total number is about 3 million total polys, but I'm probably about maybe, there's probably a lot of that I'm not using. So I just kind of want to preface that, just so you know. Okay. I'm going to turn the poly paint on the suit too, just so I can see the paint differences. Right, so that worked out. I'm going to use clay tubes to kind of dig into this area. And I think this is Dynamesh. No, it is not. Okay. So probably we'll need to retopologize this. You know, that's a good thing that you mentioned. I don't know. I don't know if I'm the Matrix movie, the next Matrix movie. I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see what they do with it. Like, one of two things can happen. Either it'll be like, yeah, all right, cool, you know, this is really great. Or it could be like the sequels. Because Matrix by itself is a really good standalone movie. Like, if you just don't watch the sequels, and I mean, I have to say that there are some interesting things in the sequels, but overall, I think they really kind of, you know, story-wise, I think they really kind of rushed that one. And again, that's my personal opinion. And so I'm really curious to see what they do. I really am. I hope it's good. I want it to be good. I really want it to be good because I really liked the original Matrix. I thought that was like good movie making. So I'm rooting for it. I'm rooting for it to be good, is what I'm trying to say. Do I do critiques? I mean, you know, I don't know what I didn't understand in the sequels. I think the premise of it is kind of interesting, you know, but I think there was just, you know, like I said, there definitely were some interesting parts in it in the sequels, and I think there was some good ideas, but overall, as a movie, I think the first one is probably really the better one of the three. Oh yeah, I hope it's not another John. I hope it's not another John Wick. I really do hope it's not one. I mean, John Wick is its own thing, but if they make Matrix into John Wick, then it's like, you know, it'd be tragic. All right, let's see what else. Do I do art critiques? I do. I mean, when I teach, I do critiques. I could do them on here, I guess, but then it'll be less of me doing this stuff. I guess I could monetize that. I could offer critiques as a as something that I could do. If anybody is interested, just go to my website here, Kermaco.com, and email me, and we can figure something out. You know, I mean, when I do critiques at school, where I teach, I usually kind of, you know, the students, I take the students' work and I basically, you know, I basically either do sculpt overs or, you know, give them some ideas of what to do to make it better. But yeah, I don't do them on here. I know Thomas Whittlebach does them. But thing is, I only have so much time, and I'd rather spend it making stuff. And the only reason why I do this stream is because I'll be doing this anyway. But it's kind of fun to hang out with you guys and have a little bit of feedback and interaction. And I'm sure some of you get something out of this. And at the end of the stream, I'll show what I'm working on outside of this. So usually, you know, when I'm doing the stream, I work on the model off screen sometimes. But some people were really adamant that no, you know, continue just to do this stuff on screen. So so I haven't really been working on this. So when I have a free moment, I always like to work on personal projects. I think that's an important thing. I think a lot of artists that go into production, like there's a lot of artists that make a lot of amazing personal stuff, but once they start working in production, you never see anything by them anymore. And partially it's because a lot of the companies they work for, they have to sign a piece of a document that says anything they work on belongs to that company, which I think is really, you know, I think it really limits artists from wanting to do their own stuff. And even if they do their own stuff, they don't show it just because they don't want it to belong to the company that they are currently employed with. So, or the production they're involved in, right? So, I definitely think that artists get better when they work on their own personal projects. Like, for example, a lot of artists don't catch up with new features in ZBrush because whatever they're working on only needs them to use certain things in ZBrush, and they don't work on their personal projects, so they kind of fall behind. Okay. Hey, Heron Mahler, how's it going, man? Did you just join us? Yeah, even if the project is done outside the company, amazing, right? Like you'd think, no, this is, you know, but yeah, anything that's done outside the company, anything that is basically, you know, I mean, they basically own your IP. You know, something that's really interesting, and you can look this up, is with Apple. Right, so Steve Wozniak used to work at, I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but I did see it in a kind of a made-for-TV movie about Apple and Microsoft. And so Steve Wozniak used to work at HP, right? And so, you know, basically he had signed that document that said whatever he works on, basically HP owned. And so when he and Steve Jobs were working on the Apple I, he went and met with his boss and asked his boss, like, hey, can I get you to sign off on the fact that HP doesn't own this, will not own the personal computer that we're working on. And the guy laughed and said, and I don't know if this is true, but you can look it up. But the guy laughed and said, who would, you know, want a computer at home? And this is in the days where computers were like mini computers, you know, like, you know, they were no longer, like mini computers were competing against mainframes, which basically took up a whole room. So Digital Deck came out with a kind of a mini, or a, not a mainframe, but a mini computer, like, you know, smaller kind of computing device. And companies, instead of spending a lot of money and buying a mainframe computer and maintaining it and all that, so that was a big business, and HP had those. So you know, like the guy was laughing at the prospect of there being a personal computer or a home computer, and said, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll sign off on this. You can own it." So if you are working on a production, you can probably go to your, you know, I don't know, the legal department or whatever, and just say, like, I'm working on this thing. I need you to sign off on the fact that I own it. Sometimes they do, most of the times they don't. And so that discourages people from doing their own thing. When I worked at Microsoft, I remember when I first joined, it wasn't the case, but soon after they had me sign something that says whatever I worked on there belong to them. Of course, I wasn't doing this kind of work at that time. Well, yeah, you know, mobile phones now are more powerful than those mini computers, for sure. But mobile phones would not have gotten to mobile phones if it wasn't for the PC. And I mean, I don't mean like Windows PC. I mean like the personal computer. If it wasn't for the personal computer, like Macs or PCs, I don't think the technology for mobile phones would have evolved. I think a lot of it comes from that. Yeah, no, it's one of these things where, you know, I think companies kind of shoot themselves in the foot sometimes and stifle innovation by restricting their employees. But I know why they do it too. But because a lot of employees can take stuff from the company that they've learned from, and then go off on their own. So I think there's a happy medium somewhere. Oops. So you can see here mostly I'm using 2-3 brushes in this whole ordeal. Okay, so now I want to add some detail to this. So let's see, how many subdivision levels do I have? 7, wow. All right, let me go back down here and see what the lowest subdivision level is. All right, so you can see here this thing is pretty low poly to start out with, which kind of looks cool. The more I went up in poly count, the more knobby it got. Yeah, there's I've got a Taschen book about like computers and pictures of them, and yeah, they basically took up rooms. They had special cooling that they needed. First computers, I'm going to be dating myself here, but the first computers I used were with punch cards, and if you guys don't know what those are, they're like pieces of paper with holes in them. I think I've got a few somewhere. And basically you use this typewriter-like thing to type the code, and then it would punch these pieces of paper, and then you take these pieces of paper in sequence and load them into a computer, and it would compute the result and give you a printout. I mean, just imagine. That's in my lifetime. We went from that to basically what mobile phones can do today, which is phenomenal. And of course, we use them for things like TikTok and social media kind of stuff, which is okay, I guess. I don't know. TikTok can be entertaining. All right, how are we doing on time? Oh, we're doing really good on time. Okay, so now what I want to do here is I want to embellish this with some... I've got kind of like the basic shape of it, and these are probably places where I'm going to get hoses in, or some sort of a tube or some sort of device. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and load up a brush here and start populating this with kitbash IMM parts. This one. Hey, Yaron79, thank you, and greetings back to you to Brazil. What time is it in Brazil right now? Are you up late? Early? Let's try something like maybe, if there's anything up here. Here we go. Let's see what something like this would look like. Oh, okay. So get rid of this star here. One thing to note is if you're going to insert IMM parts onto something, it needs to not have subdivision levels. So you either need to freeze them, or what I usually do is just duplicate the thing. So here's this. I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to find a kind of a, let me solo it out. I'm going to find a level that it's kind of good, you know, maybe a little bit higher, maybe there, and then delete lower and higher. So I actually have my original back here, but I'm just going to use this as a placeholder, and I can just bring this back and start popping in some kitbash parts. Maybe let's see what this looks like. And rotate it this way maybe. So parts like this kind of give it some more visual interest, and I kind of like this ring, but I don't like the fact that it's not symmetrical, so I'm actually going to modify this kitbash part. So I'm going to undo this, and I'm going to insert one of these guys, press W, and look at this part on its own. Solo, and let me go ahead and make this into its own thing. I'm going to unify it so it's big for now. And the thing about these parts is that it's not going to be, these parts are not going to be well, here it is. These parts are not going to be good topology. Like a lot of these are from CAD. Like look at this. It's just horrible. But it doesn't matter because it's just a small part. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go ahead and mirror and weld this on X. Okay, that's good, but I don't need it to, I need it to still be circular. So I'm going to do this, move it over a bit, mirror and weld in X until I get something like this. That's a bit too much. There's probably a smarter way to do this, but this works. Okay, there we go. Maybe a little bit more this way. Here we go. That looks much better. Okay, so I'm going to go to the center of this, and then I'm going to create an MIM brush with it. Create, insert mesh. Let's do a new one. All right, so I've got that just as its own piece, its own brush, and then we'll go back to here, hide this. So you can see I don't usually use kitbash parts vanilla. I usually modify them a bit. Why is this? Okay, that's good. And rotate it. There we go. Right, so now basically that helmet looks like it's got a nice kind of point here that I don't know, this is maybe some sort of an outlet or whatever, and she basically pulls on this thing to either let the air out from the inside or seal it or whatever. So it just kind of creates an interesting point of thing. Let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger, maybe. Position it in there like so. That's good. Okay, and now I need to figure out something to do with these over here. So this is kind of a nice place to put some lights. I probably will have some on the helmet as well, but maybe not lights, maybe something else. Let's see. Let's go back to that kitbash kit, see if we can find something interesting there. All right, I see some more stuff here. Yeah, yeah, the iMac has more. Yeah, I know. It's like I've got a history of like hard drives, and it's so funny because I've got USB cards now, flash cards that are bigger than hard drives I used to have. Okay, so you're asking about a mat cap. So for this, I'm not using a mat cap on the suit. I'm actually using a material. I went back to Skin Shade 4, but I basically the material I was kind of liking a lot is this kind of reflected plastic, which looks good. But I do have poly paint on here, so hopefully that answers that question. Still trying to position this. Okay, here we go. That's good. And I should bring the helmet back to see what that would look like with the helmet. Actually, that looks pretty good. One more little tweak. and we are good to go. Okay. One more. Again, I'm looking at this as it pertains to the overall model, and I think that'll do it. Okay, so let's switch back to this view, and let's see what other things we can add to it. So here, there's some really interesting kind of socket type of things. So let me go ahead and find one here that I can use maybe on the whole inside part of this helmet. Let's try that. This one looks interesting. Let's try this one. There. Right. Maybe go out a bit. So you can see here I had a nice little placeholder for this, but now I kind of have to position it in such a way where it actually looks like it belongs to this. And I kind of like this inside part. Maybe I can add some cushions or something to it, but it's kind of not resolving in the back. So I need to make it a little bit bigger. I could have basically just used this part instead too. But I'm going to make it a little bit bigger and just move it back. Rotate it so it kind of fits in that area. That's looking good. And the thing is, they probably didn't intend for this to be used. Oops. Okay, so let me just split masked points here, or split unmasked points. And I'm just going to use the move brush to move this stuff back. I should not be doing it with this one. I should be doing it with the original one, which I think I am. All right, here we go. Make sure that it's on subdivisions. It is. So I'm just kind of moving this to accommodate that new piece that I introduced. Like so. Robin, did I answer your question about the mat cap? Did that make sense? All right, so I'm just going to lift this up to accommodate this, like so. And then here, I actually forgot to separate this out, so I'm just going to do that now. Split hidden. Right, so now if I go back to here, these should be back. Oops, whoa, no, that's the big one. I'll delete this one, we don't need it anymore. And bring these ones up. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is what it's going to look like when she has her helmet off. Now I want to bring the helmet back on to see if this is interfering with it at all, and it's not. Good. So I've got a really good kind of helmet on and helmet off kind of display. These would kind of be hurting the neck, so I need to go in here and solo this part out and figure out what to do with this inside part. So it would be nice if this was kind of, you know, these were pillows or some sort of kind of softer thing. I mean, I like the way it looks, but practically this would kind of, if she bends her neck, it would kind of be uncomfortable. And also kind of something in the back here, it's really not accommodating. I think I had a back piece here. Let me bring that up, see if it does anything to it. No, this is going to be obstructive. Let's see what that looks like with the helmet on. No, So I'm going to get rid of that part for now. All right. Turn these pieces on for the helmet on as well. Okay, so here, with the helmet off, the helmet's showing because I'm on it. I also want to introduce these inside parts of the helmet. So go to that. Yeah, this is what it's going to look like inside, and this kind of works in the back here. I don't think that's going to be an issue. Maybe. There we go. And these screws look like they're going into her head, so maybe I can expand this part out so it hides that. All right, do I have a cat? Yes, I do have a cat. And she is one of those cats that really wants attention. And I give her plenty of it. But when I'm streaming, she starts jumping on stuff. So I put her outside and shut the door. And she does not like it. But one of these days, I'll bring her on. All right. I think I've got some more parts inside too. I think I've got this piece as well that goes inside. So we're assuming that this character is going to have, or I'm going to do kind of some shots where she's got her helmet off. And the good thing about these is, like, I might not do that, you know, I might do 1 or 2 renders, but I always go back to my previous projects and embellish them. So and do new renders. So if you guys got ZBrush 2022, you'll notice that in the loading screens I've got a render of a character that is using one of the mechs that I did before. So I like to so this kind of looks good like this too. Just render that real quick to see what it looks like. And it's looking okay. I'm getting closer to the ending time here. So if you guys have last minute questions, ask me and I'll look through this again. Okay, the other thing also with the matte cap, I should also mention that I'm using occlusion. So this is basically a occlusion that turns on and off. And this is under render preview. So under here, the menus, it's under render preview. I think it's under preview. Oh yeah, it's occlusion. It's right here. And that's kind of, it gives it a little bit of an extra kind of, you know, edge detection, I guess, of sorts, and shows it up better. All right, so here we go. That's looking good. Without the helmet, this is what she's going to look like. And then there's this piece in the back. Let me, oops, no, that's the mouthpiece. Oh. Looks like this has got like some weird extra piece over here that I didn't notice before. Look at it. Yeah, what is this thing over here? All right, so I need to get rid of that. So to do that, I'm going to go to select lasso. It's amazing that you can hear my cat though, because it's, you know, I guess. All right. I'll go get her after the stream. You guys can see her. All right, delete hidden. Oh, yeah, sure. And that's gone. All right, so we're back to normal here. That's just kind of a little mouthpiece that I put on the helmet. And these are kind of the headphones that go outside of the helmet. Now she knows she's going to come on. She's like, please, no, why later? All right, so here's kind of all the different pieces. I'm just kind of seeing how they fit until the helmet comes on later. All right, but the whole reason why I did all this was to see how this other piece that is coming up from the backpack would look without the visor, I guess. Turn that off. And without this mouthpiece. Let's just go to her eyes or something. Yeah, that kind of looks good. It kind of, you know, the thing that I just did with this back part interferes with it. So let me fix that real quick. There we go. All right. I think that looks good like that too. So when she takes the helmet off, this is what it's going to look like. And I probably will have this inside part be a different color. I can probably do that now. It's always good to kind of play around with colors early. Maybe like some sort of a lighter color like this. Fill object. There we go. And also I probably need to work on the bottom of this a little bit. Kind of go over here. So that kind of works out. Maybe these things are to hold this piece in. And if I really want to get kind of detailed, I can put some latches in there too to hold it up. All right, so I think we're getting close to closing here. Okay, 4 diving suits, oxygen related. Yeah. Sure. I mean, diving suits are kind of like astronaut suits, especially those big clunkers with the that they used to wear for deep diving, right? All right, so she kind of wears this stuff. So, oops, don't want to do that. Let's go to clip curve. All right, so it's coming along. I think the suit's looking pretty much close to being done. I think there's a few areas I'll work on them off camera. The other thing I want to do is add some gloves. Let's do that before we end. And then I'll go get the cat. All right, so I'm looking at this, and since I have it poly grouped here, I can probably just peel off where I want the glove to be. So let me see here. I probably just can go, it looks like the red is good. Let me turn transparency on. Maybe to about here is what I need for the glove. So let me do that here. I'm just going to duplicate this. Oh, no, I didn't want to delete it. That's fine. I have it as a... The good news is I have the... I need to not make these close to each other. 2 big buttons that we begin with D is not a good idea. All right, so what I need to do is... wow, look at that. Just bring that back in. So, tool... Starters, topo. Where is it? This one. Hopefully the scale isn't going to be messed up. I don't think it is. But let's wait a couple of minutes for that to load. All right, there she is. And all I need is just this piece right here. Copy. And paste. All right, good. Easy problem to solve. Let's go back to here, delete all. I don't need this anymore. Let's free up the memory. Here we go. Okay, so we're good again. And so what I want to do here is I wanted to duplicate it, not delete it. So we're back on track here. And what I want to do with the duplicate is I want to bring the subdivision levels down to 1. Solo. And what I want to do is use ZModeler. I'm going to delete the upper subdivision levels. I don't really need them. And I'm going to let me just kind of eyeball it again. Go up to here for the glove, maybe up to here. So delete poly loop on edge. Delete, still on edge. Delete poly loop and just get rid of this one. Am I symmetrical? No. That, and then delete island. Okay, and then something that I found as a good practice is whenever I have a delete action in ZModeler, I usually go and turn it to do nothing. Solo, there it is, W, and let's pop that over here. And now what I want to do is I want to kind of create, let's turn transparency off. What I want to do is I want to create the glove. So the best way to do that is just to inflate it out. Whoa, too much. Maybe to about, it's again, I guess for an astronaut glove, that's too much. Maybe about, what's that at? Still too much. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start typing in numbers so that I can just basically get to it. So let's start with 2. No, let's try to go do another one. Another one. Okay, that's good enough. All right, so that's going to be, oh, I don't want to do that. Okay, that's going to be the glove, but I want it to go over that the area. So what I'm going to do here is just go to mask lasso, mask this part, and just project it out. Where are you? Enter subtool, project, project all. All right, so this is going to, oh no, 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 no. I know when the last time I saved was. Okay. All right, don't crash. At least save before you crash. Let's see. I don't know. Oh, you know what? I don't know if I deleted the hidden parts. Well, that's fine. Okay. All right, we'll attempt to quick save. Let's see. Okay, good. We're saving. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is why I like ZBrush too, because even when you get into some sort of situation like this one, it recovers. All right. But I think I should be back. I'll load it back in, and then I'll bring my cat and show it to you guys, and then we'll call it night. All right, woohoo! And now for the crash, and then we'll load it back in just to show that it's there. I love the fact that it does this. All right, so there's that. And I guess you guys will get a chance to look at the stuff I'm working on outside of here. And recovered documents, ZPR, bring it in. I don't want to save changes. All right, I'm going to go let the cat in while this is loading. Kitty. All right, here she is. Whoa. All right, give her some treats. Thing about cats are they're not. Come on, jump. All right, here we go. And I'll bring her up. Oh, there she is. Yeah. All right. So here's the third one. All right, so now she's all curious about that. All right, so we're back with our model. So there it is. Another really amazing thing about ZBrush is that it recovers nicely sometimes, most of the time. And here's the cat kind of trying to look for more treats. Let me see if I can get her to. Come on. All right. There she is purring. Hello, everybody. All right. All right, so great. Once again, thanks for watching, and there she is again coming over. We will see you in a couple of weeks. Happy ZBrushing, and hope everybody's having a good holiday.